So welcome to today's webinar. It's analyzing the SAS data using the PerformancePLUS pushed reports or push reports. I like to call them the pushed reports because they're pushed to you, but for some reason they're push reports. So welcome everybody. As you can see, I think you can see somewhere on your screen, you've got Heather and me. I'm Ann Mordecai. We're here as your presenter and your moderator, and we'll talk about that in a second. But who are we? Who we are? We are Demonstrated Success. We are a K-12 educational company based in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, but we work all over New England. Our coaches have decades of experience. We could even say centuries because we're getting so old. We focus really on ELA and math, curriculum, instruction and assessments, and also culture and climate initiatives, PLC training. We do a lot of work with data like we're doing today. And during this past year and a couple months, we have had quite a few webinars, and we'll show you can actually access all the videos of them at the end. I'll show you how. So again, this is Heather. She's the presenter today, and I am going to be the moderator. I'll be here to answer any questions you have. And if you want to read about us, when you get the PowerPoint tomorrow, you can read about us. We're glad you're here. We're glad you joined us. There's a lot of information in PerformancePLUS that will help you analyze what went well, what needs work. And thank you for all the work you've done this year. We've only got a few more weeks. We're going to make it. During the webinar, everyone will be muted. At the end, if you have questions and you want to talk about them, we'll unmute you. You can raise your hand and we'll unmute you. And tomorrow you'll get an email. In it will be the PowerPoint. There'll be a folder, a link to a folder with the PowerPoint, a video of this webinar, and any resources that Heather talks about today.
All right, so this is where I take over. Hello, everyone. This is my gentle reminder. We know this is a lot. We do appreciate you being here. We appreciate everything that you're doing to make sure that all these students are getting where they need to be this year. So thank you very much. I am going to turn my video off just for the remainder. Again, please be sure to put your questions in the Q&A, and Anne will feed anything that you have to me as soon as she can. So today, our goals are to answer the following questions. How are the New Hampshire SAS summative results reported in PerformancePLUS? How do you view the results in PerformancePLUS, and what do the results mean for how can you use them to inform your instruction? We're going to mostly talk about the reporting structure and the different reports that you have that are pushed to you. And we can kind of talk as well about sort of what those results mean and what you might be able to do to inform your instruction and make sure your teachers know where everybody is. So the first thing we are going to talk about, again, is that structure of the reporting. And then we're going to talk a little bit about scoring. Then we're going to look at what the push reports look like and the information on them. And then we're going to wrap up. So reporting structure. This is the reporting structure for the New Hampshire SAS summative reports. So you have subjects, reporting categories, clusters, and standards. For the most part today, we're going to talk about subjects, reporting categories, and clusters, but I want to show you sort of where the standards are also located because the clusters are made up of a group of standards. So I'm going to show you how they sort of correlate to the Common Core and to the next generation science standards. So first, subjects. So here are the subjects that are reported for the summative results. We have ELA grades 3 through 8, math 3 through 8, and then science is just grades 5, 8, and 11. All of these subjects and everything that is included on the assessments have to do with the Common Core for math, ELA, and then the next generation science standards. When we're looking at reporting categories, this is the way that they are set up within the New Hampshire SAS reporting portal. And so you can see for each grade level, there are specific reporting categories. Now, we're going to go into reporting categories. They are a little bit different. They're reported two different ways within Performance Plus. So we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in just a couple of minutes. In general, for reporting categories, this is an example of the Math Common Core standards. So for reporting categories, these are examples of the reporting categories here. So operations and algebraic thinking, numbers and operations base 10, you might have numbers and operations fractions, and so on, measurement, data, and geometry. So those are your reporting categories for math. For ELA, for the Common Core, you are looking at reading standards for literature, reading standards for informational text, and then there's also some writing standards, speaking and listening, and all of that. But for the most part, we're looking at the literature and informational text reporting categories. For science, the way that the reporting categories are set up here is specifically for physical science, life science, and earth science. So those are the reporting categories that we have for the summative assessments for science. Now, just making sure that you understand where the cluster scores or standard scores come from. Again, if we're looking at math, you have this operations and algebraic thinking reporting category. The clusters are underneath there, so that write and interpret numerical expressions or analyze patterns and relationships. Those are clusters underneath that reporting category of operations and algebraic thinking. Underneath each cluster, or within each cluster, it's made up of a set of standards. So those are listed underneath that within the Common Core documents. Same thing for ELA. You've got your clusters that are underneath your reporting categories. So we have reading standards for literature here. A couple of the clusters are key ideas and details or craft and structure. And then within that, the standards are set up underneath those particular clusters. For science, the clusters are, so these are the physical science clusters. And for the reporting structure for the summatives, it only goes that far for science. It does not go down to the standard level. Okay, any questions at all about, okay.
We have no questions yet, unless.
Okay, so that's just in general the reporting structure. Now what I want to talk a little bit about is the scoring structure and how things are scored and what types of scales they're scored on. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start with subjects. So again, you have your subject scores. So these are your ELA, math, or science. The way that these subject scores are reported is 4 different levels. So you have the level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Those are the colors that are pretty familiar to you, specifically with Performance Plus. Underneath this, just so you can understand, I have put on this PowerPoint what each level sort of means when it comes to ELA and math, and pretty much for science as well. But basically your level 1 is below proficient, level 2 is approaching, level 3 is proficient in applying, and level 4 is highly proficient in applying. For subject scores, we have what are called achievement level cut scores. So there's a specific range of scores that students get, and they will be put into either a level 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending on what their, we call it a scaled score within the reporting portal, but they're scored within their overall score, also within Performance Plus. So these are the cut scores. It's just helpful sometimes for people to know where those sort of, what they are. So if we're looking in Performance Plus and I'm looking at the overall math score, we're looking here, and this is what those cut scores are made up of. They're based on that particular score right there. Okay, so for reporting categories, again, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, but I'm going to do my best to explain it. The reporting categories in Performance Plus are shown 2 different ways. One way is by showing 3 levels. So you have your subject score, and then underneath that you have a reporting category score that is showing 3 levels of proficiency. We also have within Performance Plus, which is actually a real benefit of Performance Plus, we have that same reporting category shown at 4 different levels as well. And I'll show you a little bit of how this works. Within the Cambium reporting portal, if you were looking at the reporting portal, once the students take the tests, you will only get 3 levels of reporting for reporting categories. But the push reports, a lot of them, and reports that you can make within Performance Plus will show these 4. So here's an example. So the reporting categories for P+, for ELA for grades 3 through 8, anything with an asterisk. So if you're ever running a report that's a New Hampshire SAS report at all, if there is an asterisk next to it, it means that there are going to be 4 levels that are reported. And this is what they are. So anybody with a 0 to 25% will be substantially below. Then partially proficient is 25 to 50, proficient is 51 to 75, and then proficient with distinction is 76 to 100. Right now, these actual words are also within Performance Plus, but we're looking at taking them out because it can be a little bit misleading. So they'll just have the percentages on them, but this is what it looks like right now. And then we also have, for these reporting categories, for reading informational text, reading literature, and writing, we have the 3 reporting levels, just like it does in the Cambium reporting portal. So for the most part, this is what we're looking for, or this is what we're going to see within Performance Plus. I'll show you the distinction and where they might both be shown on some of the push reports, but this is really what we like to use the most in Performance Plus. So that's for ELA.
Can I have a question? What have we gotten there yet? What's the difference between at and on? I've asked that question of Cambium a million times, and you know, there is no difference between at and on, but they should just rename those levels.
Yeah. So basically one is low, one is approaching standard, and one is either on or above. Yeah.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah. So for math grades 3 through 5, these are the Performance Plus that shows 4 levels. The 3 levels over here, there does seem to be a couple more, the modeling and problem solving and use of mathematical reasoning. Those are reporting levels that they have within the Cambium portal and within Performance Plus. They just don't have clusters or anything underneath them, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So 6th grade math, this is just the difference there. Again, mostly the difference is just the modeling and problem solving and use of mathematical reasoning. This is for grade 7. And this is for grade 8 math. And then just so you know, for science, the science reporting categories, just 3 levels no matter what. So that's the way that they're reported. Part of it is because it doesn't necessarily go down to the standard level as well. And we'll talk about it a little bit later too. The reports that we're pushing out to you for science, we're still really working on what the best options are for viewing. So if you have any sort of feedback or thoughts, be sure to pass them along. Okay. So this is just an example of the reporting categories. So over here, we have operations and algebraic thinking. It is the one without the asterisk. So you're going to get 3 levels of scoring for that. And then the other one, the operations and algebraic thinking with the asterisk, you're going to get 4 levels of reporting. Okay. So in addition, the reason that we really like using the ones with the asterisk is you are allowed to include notes, and it shows you specifically what those students scored. I've cut off the student names. The student names would be on the left here. But it shows you what each student scored and out of how many questions. So that's one thing I just want to make sure that you're understanding as well, is this next little part, which is all students get a different number of points based on the questions that they get. It is an adaptive test, and there's different levels and depth of knowledge questions that students get. So it can be a little bit confusing to see student scores and wonder how they're getting a certain level of proficiency, but it has to do with the number of questions that they got and the depth of knowledge that was needed to answer those questions. This particular one that I'm showing you right now is a reporting category score. It becomes even more interesting to see within the cluster level because they get so many different numbers of questions each that I'll kind of point that out again when we get there. All right, so now we're moving on to cluster scores. And the cluster scores all have 4 levels of reporting, and it's those same percentages for the clusters. And so here's an example of what it would be for your clusters. So over here on the left, I have operations and algebraic thinking. It is the one with the asterisk, so I do have the notes included here. And then over on the right-hand side, we have our the two clusters within operations and algebraic thinking. So I'm just going to kind of zoom in on that just a little bit. So this is just the clusters here. And so what I want to point out is here's one cluster and here's the other. And those are really important because even though I'm not seeing specific standards here, I can go into my Common Core documents and look at that particular cluster and see what standards make up that cluster. It's typically the way we tell folks as well. It's hard to focus on just one standard and say, okay, we didn't do very well on this one standard. It's really far more beneficial to look at the cluster of standards and figure out what do we need to teach in general for this cluster to be able to increase our scores. So the clusters here are really important. I just put the line down it so you can see the difference between the two. So again, we have a column here where the notes is, those are the points scored. So you can see how many points they got out of how many they were given. You can see just even looking on this left column here, this student got 9 questions. This student got 5. This student got 7. So you really want to be looking at how many questions a student is getting, because that's really, changing their score quite a bit. Same thing over here. We have an example would be, so this student got 2 out of 3 correct, and they're proficient. And this particular student up here got, 2 out of 3, they're proficient. We've got a 2 out of 4. So that person got the same amount correct, but they're partially proficient because they had more questions. But we're not sure, maybe this person here that got proficient, if they got that same other question, maybe they would be the same, level of proficiency. They might not have got that 4th question correct either. So you just want to just be aware when you're looking at the points scored.
We have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Just clarifying that a student who is demonstrating proficiency while taking the test will receive more questions with a higher DOK. Is that correct?
Theoretically, yes. Maybe, that's the way we've talked to Cambium a lot about this, and they certainly have made a point to say that this is an adaptive test. So when I look at adaptive, I would say, yes, that is going to be the case. If they are getting questions correctly, they should be getting a little bit more depth of knowledge questions, like harder depth of knowledge questions, because they're doing well on the assessment.
But they won't necessarily get more. So a student who isn't doing as well they're going to give a lower depth of knowledge question and see how they do on that one, and another lower one. So it doesn't mean they'll get more questions if they're doing better, but the depth of knowledge will go up.
Right. And I do believe that it's not this particular student, you can see is 2 out of 7. But this one's 3 out of 6. So it's not like there's no sort of algorithm that says I'm getting this many wrong, so I'm only going to get this many questions. So that part is a little bit more of a mystery. This next one here, this score that's basically their percentage. What percentage did they score on the assessment or that particular cluster of standards? Again, in Performance Plus, we're not going down to the actual standard level. So we're really looking at the cluster level. So we're not going to get too much into the standards there. But again, this is just an overall scoring structure. So I just wanted to show you a screenshot with all of it. So we have the overall score. This is ELA. Then we have the reporting category of reading literacy, right? And then this is the same reading standards for literature, but it is the one with the asterisk. So it is 4 levels of reporting instead of 3 levels of reporting. So this one's 3, this one's 4. And then here are your cluster scores, which are again 4 levels of proficiency there. It can get a little confusing because you're looking at this and you're saying, oh, this particular student here for the reporting category of reading literacy is only at or approaching. But when we go to 4 levels of reporting, they're now proficient. And I'll explain a little bit of that. It's a little confusing, so I'll show you a graphic that will hopefully explain that to you in just a few minutes. All right. Any questions about that? I'm going to move on to the actual push reports. I've broken this up into kind of 3 different areas. So bear with me as I get through this. So here are, once you log into Performance Plus, you're going to click right on this little bar graph here, and that's the reporting section. So you click right on that. And so these are the reports that are currently pushed to you. Or the folders that are currently pushed to you. And what I want to just note is that your screen might look a little bit different. You might not see those reports right at the top, this little arrow that can move this up and down. You might see where it is that you run reports up at the top, and this might be towards the bottom. So it's really your preference of where you want to see it. You will definitely see all of these reports here. And you might have other additional reports that either you have saved. So if you're somebody who has created reports or run reports in the past and saved them, they will also be here. Or if anybody from your school or district has pushed reports to you or shared reports with you, you're going to see them. But at the very least, this is what you see. So this is the report folder structure. So these are just the folders. So again, here's my reports page. As soon as I log in, this is somewhere on your screen. So the first thing is we've got some summary reports that are across all grade levels. You've got some individual folders for each grade level. And then what you should know is that your access to data is restricted based upon your user rights in P+. So if you are somebody that only has access to 5th grade, if you try to run an 11th grade science results, you're not going to get any data. Or if you wanted to run a 3rd grade, a comparative report, you're not going to get any data in there because you don't have access to those particular students. So let's take a look here. So this folder A, the all grades overall, if I click on that, these are the reports that you get. So all these reports here, they show overall subject scores, and the math and ELA are reported together in the first 3 reports. So all of these on the left-hand side here have ELA and math on them. And then the science is over here on the right-hand side. So again, these are overall by building or school or district. And then just so you know, I don't have it, I'm not live in the system, but if you click on a folder and you open up and see the reports in that folder, and then you want to get back, click on this button here, that's the back arrow, that's the best way to be able to get back to that main screen that brings you to where all the reports are. Okay, again, access to data is restricted based upon your rights, your user rights in P+. So if I click the back button now, I'm back to the main reporting screen again. And then now we also have here the grade level reports, and those are located in their corresponding folder. So here are all those grade level reports. Okay, there's also some SAT stuff here, and then we have the science results over here, but just we've separated out the science results a couple different reasons, but one mainly is because they didn't used to have science, and we had the push reports and we had them all in the same folder, and then they added the science. So we kind of kept that separated out. In the future, if we're looking at 5th grade science results, those might be in a 5th grade folder. So just so you know, that's probably going to be updated at some point, but for right now, they're still separated. So I'm just going to use 5th grade. It's a middle grade for most people that are here today. So for 5th grade, you have, again, it's going to be at a specific grade level. So if I had chosen 6th grade, I'm only going to see 6th grade reports here. For 7th grade or 8th grade or 3rd grade. For just so that you know, this these any two scatter plot reports here, if you are looking at 3rd grade, you won't have these two reports are gone. They're not there because there's nothing to compare to. They've never taken any of the summative assessments in the past, or in terms for that matter. For grade 4, because they are not, we don't have 2 years of summative data for them because they didn't take it last year. We used the interim from the beginning of this year and the summative from this spring. So just a heads up there. And then again, access is to the data is restricted upon your user rights. So again, back to that home page here. These are your science results. So what I've done here is I've just kind of, this is a screenshot of 5th, 8th, and 11th. They're all very, very similar reports. They basically show overall subject reports, overall subject reporting category and cluster scores. And then we're still working on putting some of these reports. This is what I was talking about earlier. If you have any suggestions or any thoughts for what you would like to see for science, please let us know. We're always open to feedback for that. Right now, we're pretty limited to what, basically the reporting category and the cluster scores. But if you want to see them differently, or if you always run a report that you find really useful, we'd love to know about it. And then again, access is restricted based upon your level. Okay, so here we go. Overall score report examples. So these reports are going to show overall proficiency for schools and or districts. So we're on this main page again. I'm going into the all grades overall. Once I'm in that folder, here's what I have for my reports. So the first report I want to show you is this one right here. It's all grades by building. It's a comparative and achievement level report. So here's what it looks like. We have along the left-hand side, there are your schools there, and then your overall district score that's there. So there's a, this bar chart is what you'll see at the top of your screen. There is a table with data in it at the bottom. It'll be on my next slide, so I'll show you both. You can click on any of these bars to be able to drill down into those results. So for this school, if I wanted to look just at that school's results, I click right on it and it will open up those results. One thing that I do want to show here is I am using a de-identified database. So right here, I have my schools and then the overall district. You will also see what the state is currently for overall scores. I just want to kind of, let you know it's what is reported thus far. So if there are still students taking the assessments through June 11th, and then it takes a little bit for them to go from the ORS to us. So that is a dynamic field until probably the end of June. So just be careful. You might run it at this point and say, oh, wow, we're doing this way compared to the state. And then 3 weeks from now, it might be different because it's a dynamic field until the window has closed and everything's been uploaded. So just a heads up on that. So this is the bottom of that particular report. So you've got here, Anne and I both really like the bar chart. I just feel like it's really, it's very easy to see where you've got your level 4, 3, 2, and 1 for each school. You can kind of see like, okay, this particular school, look, they only have 2 students. So that would, that makes sense there. But if you're looking overall, you can kind of see, okay, school 166 here has quite a bit of students that are in the lower portion of it. And then you've got some that are higher. It's just a really good visual for it. But a lot of people do like this second part of it because you're able to see sort of overall what you have here. So you're looking at your math scores. And it does, this particular one is a math example. And then there's also the ELA example as well. But this shows overall percentages here. You can look at how many proficient and the number of students, how many total students there were within the district and within the schools. So there's that part.
I just want to interrupt. We still have, there are no more questions yet. I'm just hoping that people will write some questions because I'm sure if you have them, everybody has them. And I know you've said that to your students a million times, but definitely ask questions.
All right. So here, this is also anywhere there looks like a hyperlink, it is a dynamic link. So you click right on that and you could go right into that school and you would see their overall math scores for grade 3. All right, so we're again in that overall, that A folder, and we're going to go down to another report here. This is a similar report, but now we're going to be looking at the IEP and LEP students. So you'll see that it looks very similar, but over on the left-hand side here, you've got, this is grade 3, you've got your IEP, your LEPs, and then these are students not in any groups, overall district, and overall state and region. So again, you're going to have the bar chart at the top. You can click on any part of that and it will open it right up. You can drill down and see the students, right? And then right here where it says students not in groups, this is non-IEP or LEP students. The overall district is everybody, including IEP and LEP students. And then the state as well is all students, including IEP and LEP.
Good question.
I saw.
For the overall report, overall by building, do we have to put in the system? Do we have to go in as a system administrator to see this? You said earlier that we don't have access to all grade levels, just our own.
So I think it will just show you your grade level.
And the district.
And the district. Yeah. Yeah.
And the state.
Yes. And the state. Yes. So if you only have 3rd grade access, you're just going to see 3rd grade here. Same thing if you have 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and so on. All right. This is the bottom of that particular report. So you've got all of your overall scores just a little bit differently. And then here you're able to click on the IEP or LEP area and just see those particular students. Okay. So again, we're back in that overall score. I'm going to show you this one here. This is the pie chart. So this here, the bottom of it is cut off, but you'll get the idea here. Any of the pie chart reports that we have show just that. It's a pie chart. The cool thing is each pie breaks out the overall results by proficiency. So you can see here This is for math grade 5. This is the overall score for the summatives this year. This is the overall score for the summatives in 2019 and the overall score for the summatives in 2018. So I love this report too, because you can click on any piece of the pie and it shows you those students, or you can click anywhere over here. And again, it will bring you in and show you that particular group of students. And then this is obviously for this year and previous years. This report, I just have a little asterisk here. I cut off where the interim reports were, the interims were. So if you look at this and you have 5th grade access, you would see the 5th grade summative from this year. You would see the interim that they took, that was the 4th grade interim at the beginning of the year. And then you would see the 5th grade from 2019 and the 5th grade from 2018, which is interesting because it's not all the same students, just so you know. So 2 of them are on the current students that you had this year, but then these are for students that were in 5th grade on previous years. You have a question?
Yep, you have a couple questions.
Okay.
One is, what does LEP mean?
I don't know, what exactly?
Limited English proficiency.
Yeah, I knew that it was
English speaking,
the ELL students, yes.
And then the next one is, my pie chart skips 2020. Is there any way to compare the interim assessment? Could you say that again?
Yeah, so the interim assessment is usually in here. That's what my little asterisk is here. Normally what it is it's still going to say interim 2021. It still says that that's the reporting year that ends in 2021. Normally the interim is right in the middle here, but I just had cut it off so that you could see the summit. I just wanted you to see that you were going to see summative results as well. Make sense?
So it is in there.
It is in there usually. Yep, that's why I have this little.
She says it skips it. So did you run this? I'm just, so you can respond back. Did you run the report and it skipped the interim? If you did, I will fix it.
Yeah, because I had to go in and squish it when I did the screenshot. So I'd be curious to know if for some reason it's not showing on a, a traditional user level. It should show. So any other question?
I did all data, but not in, so I did not look closely. Okay, let us know and we'll check it too.
Yeah, I can go into the de-identified database and run it and we can see if that's the case. But I specifically took the interim off of this screenshot. Okay. So now I want to look a little bit more at specific grade level report examples. So these reports are going to help you to inform instruction for the grade or for a subject. So we're in this is our main screen again. As soon as you log in, these are your push reports that are available here. I'm going to choose 5th grade. You could choose any grade level that you would like. These are the reports that we have. Again, these are very similar to what I've shown you on the other ones. These were the ones that we've taken a peek at. And then, so these are the ones we're going to look at, specific grade levels. So here is the achievement level comparison. This is showing you here. Again, it's that bar chart at the top. It is the table at the bottom. So over here, we have the overall math score. This is the 4 levels of reporting that you're seeing. Then underneath that, this is not anything with the asterisk, right? So we have underneath this are those particular reporting categories that are the 3-level reporting categories here. And then here's the overall ELA score, 4 levels, and then the 2 reporting categories underneath that are here. All right. If we look at, again, you can click on any bar and open it up. So if we look at this bottom of this, it's the same thing that we've seen before, where you can see over here, these are white just so that you can know, because they're not reported to 4 categories because they are the ones with the 3 levels of reporting that we use. And then any of these here, we can look at and drill right into that description and look right at that specific portion of the assessment and the students for that portion. The next one here is the ELA detail results by grade. This is just so you know, it's the same. I'm going to show you the ELA and then I'm going to show you the math as well. So this is the ELA, same type of report. Again, it's the level comparison. Here we are. Here's our overall ELA score. Here are 2 reporting categories that are the 3-level reporting categories. And then underneath that, they have gotten and drilled into that same, but the 4 levels. So you can see this correlates right up here. This is standards for literacy. And this is what it looks like when you break it out into 4. And then underneath that, you can also see the clusters that are under the reading standards for literature. Okay, so these are the 3 clusters. And then under the informational text, here are the 3 clusters that you have for that.
Somebody said I don't see the asterisk.
Right here, it's at the end of each. Yep. There's little tiny asterisks at the end of them. So anything that has that, it might just be because I made it as big as I could make it on there, but there's little tiny asterisks right before the date. So those are the 2 reporting categories that have 4 levels, and then the clusters always have 4 levels anyway. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, again, you can click on any bar, and then here is what it looks like here. You might be able to see the asterisk a little bit better here. So you have reading standards for literature, reading standards for informational text. We also have some language standards and some writing standards. So they do show, it wasn't on the, I couldn't show you the whole part of the bar chart. So it's just a cross section of it. So this tells you all the information that you can see. And if you were on this particular page and you were scrolling down, it would show you all of those particular reporting categories and clusters as well. Again, anything that looks like it's a link, it is. You could drill right in and just see how your kids did with craft and structure and how individual students scored there. Back to this here, I'll show you that it's the same thing for math. So we're looking here again, we're looking at the overall math score. Here are the reporting categories that are the 3-level reporting categories right here. And then we start our first one, that's the 4, with the clusters underneath it here. We are working on, it's getting cut off. I didn't just cut that off. It is getting cut off in PerformancePLUS. So we're working on trying to figure out how to show a little bit more of that information for you. But it's the same type of like the way that it's structured. It's the same structure as the ELA, but it's just for math. So if I go to this next page, you can see that underneath here, you have your overall score, and then these are your 3 levels of reporting. And then underneath that, each reporting category here has the clusters underneath it. Reporting category with clusters, and these are all 4-level reporting. Okay. Again, you can click in and look at a cross section of students if you would like. Okay, any questions about those? Because I'm going to get into student level at this point.
No questions that anybody's written.
Okay. So these reports are going to help you inform instruction for individual students. So the other reports are really good to figure out what are we in general, what is our weakness overall as a grade level, and what might we want to work on. So if we just kind of went back to this pie chart here, if we're looking, again, this is just a little bit of a cross section of it. If we're looking at the individual clusters for a grade level, or even just operations and algebraic thinking compared to numbers and operations base 10, we could kind of decipher from here. They're pretty close, but you might go down into the cluster level and say, okay, what are we looking at? And this might be another good example here, so you can see where are the highest number of students proficient and where do we have the least amount of students proficient, and look at those particular standards overall as a grade. So now, again, we're getting into student level. So I'm in this 5th grade folder still, and I'm going to look at this next report, that 3rd report, the reporting category by student. This is going to show you, again, up at the top here, you'll see you've got the, it starts from earliest and comes all the way up here. So for grade 5, you have this particular group of students, and how this group did on the 3rd grade summative, how they did on that 4th grade interim at the beginning of this year, and how they're doing on the 5th grade summative at the end of this year. One thing I do want to point out on this screen while we're here is any of these up and down arrows, you can click and sort by that particular column. So sometimes you do want to take a look at this and then you want to say, oh, okay, well, let's see. Let's look at all the students, and I could click here on their score. I tend not to use level because it doesn't, their score is really what you want to go off of because so many kids have the same level, so many students do. So if you click on score, you could say all these kids, if I sorted it by, you know, all the ones that are level 4s or above, you can see how they did across into now. So it's interesting to see all the kids that maybe were level 4 that either are or not on the summatives for this year. So again, this is showing the 2021 summative, the 2021 interim, and the 2019 summative. This next one I want to show you here, I'm showing you the math detail results by student. The ELA one is very similar. I just wanted to show you one of these. So here's what we have. Up at the top here, you can see we have operations and algebraic thinking here. Again, because there's an asterisk there, we know there's 4 levels of reporting here. And then here are the clusters, the 2 clusters that go along with that. Then we have numbers and operations base 10 and fractions. Here is the 4 levels of reporting here, and then how they did on each cluster within there. Again, this is a cross section, so this isn't the whole report. If I showed you the whole report, it's just so small. So again, shows you reporting category and cluster scores. And let's take a look at this comparative, the NE2 scatter plot. This one is really interesting. I think a lot of people look at this, and I did a reporting level 2 webinar, I think it was last week, and I even messed it up, and I've looked at it quite a few times. So today we're gonna redeem myself as we take a look. Most people look at it and say, I have no idea what this means. It seems really confusing, but it's actually not too bad. So I'm just gonna go over some points on the right-hand side, and then I'll show you some of the information on this. So this compares how given students did from one year to the next. So right down in the bottom here, this is the New Hampshire SAS grade 3. And then this is the 5th grade summative that those same kids have here. Because they didn't take it last year, those are the 2 years that we're using for this. If you hover over any of the dots, it shows you what the student name is. And then if you click on that, that will drill down right into that student file. It'll bring you right up to their student page, and you're able to view any of the assessments that they've done. Just so you know, it's a little tricky to get back to this from there, but you can look at a specific student. It will show you all of the assessments they've done, not just the 2 that are on this scatter plot, just so you know. Okay, so this right here, the dots above the diagonal show the students who have excelled, and those below the diagonal show the students who have dropped. The diagonal that we're talking about is here. Basically, this goes right up this way. So anybody who is in this red has scored a level 1 or below proficient in their 3rd grade assessment. This is anybody who's below proficient in the 3rd grade. And then this is anybody from here down below proficient in the 5th grade summative this year. Same thing with this is the proficient, this is above proficient, and this is, this is below, this is approaching, this is proficient, and this is above proficient. So the diagonal is here. So anybody who sort of scores above that is doing better on this, on the assessment for this year. In addition, so let's take a look here. So this is the level 1 here for the 2019. This is a level 2 in 2019, all the way up. This is a level 3 in 2019, and this is a level 4 in 2019. If we're looking at 2021, anything below this line here is a level 1. Everybody here is a level 2. Here is level 3, and here is level 4. So you definitely want to see the kids that are here and they're level 4 and staying level 4. It's interesting because this is, it's pretty uniform for those kids who have been and stayed a level 4. Every once in a while, we get an outlier that kind of goes over or goes down or things like that. So this is nice. These students here, so these are all the greens for both. But if we start looking at this here, these kids actually are scoring better this year than they did in 2019. So in 2019, right, they were just a level 2 here, but this year they're a level 3. So that's pretty good. Any questions about that one? I'm going to just have people sit on that just for a second because that tends to get a little bit confusing. The other thing that I just wanted to tell you is that this little dot right here with the like the burst around it, that's the average score for the 2 assessments.
And it's a great report to use for comparing your SAS results to your NEWA or STAR. So if your kids take the STAR at the end of the year and the SAS at the end of the year, compare and see if the level 4s are the level 4s on both, level 3s are the level 3s on both, because that's important information to know. Right, and it's something, if you aren't sure how to do that, our contact information is at the end of this, at the end of these slides. So just let us know and we can help you. I can tell you, it might not be much of a shocker, but most people I know as a teacher, we all kind of love the NEWA and we love the STAR because our kids really do really well on it. And it tends to be that we really don't love the summatives because the students aren't doing as well. So it is really telling. I think some people look at that and say, wow, see, my kids are doing totally fine. They did well on the STAR, but I would really encourage you to look at the standards that the STAR assessment is covering and check to see really how aligned it is to the Common Core, because the summative assessments are the closest we've seen aligned to what is really the true expectation of the Common Core. So that's just a little tidbit. All right, I wanted to show before we finish up, there is a little bit of confusion with scoring. Mostly when we talk about the reporting categories being 3 levels of reporting and the clusters or the reporting categories that might be 4 levels of reporting, it doesn't seem to totally match up. I'm going to show you a couple of examples here. So this child here is somebody who their overall math score is highly proficient. But then when you look at their reporting categories, again, not the ones with the asterisks, these are 3 levels of reporting. You're looking at, wow, they were okay, on or above on a couple of them, but they were only at or approaching on 2 of them. So how do we get from on or above to at or approach and at or approaching to highly proficient? It seems like it shouldn't happen. In addition, this
person down here, this student, is very similar as well. So they are proficient and they're on or above on 2 of them, but they're at or approaching on the other 2. So you're wondering like, okay, that seems interesting because this student had only 1 yellow and they're still just at proficient. This person is proficient and they've got, this person has 3 that are yellow and they're proficient. Like, how does this happen? So I'm going to show you right now. So here it is. This is what happens. So we've got subject level scores are 4 levels. So here's the 4 levels. And then within the reporting categories that are the 3 levels of reporting, this particular band where the yellow is, do you see this band goes into the level 4 and this band goes into the level 1? So this yellow is not just yellow, it's yellow and green and a little bit of blue and a little bit of red. So that's how we start to look and see that some students are scoring. It doesn't seem to make as much sense, but this is why. So hopefully I explained that enough for you to understand, but if it's still really confusing to you, let us know. And also the other part of this isn't a good example, but there are times where you will see a student's scaled score is lower than another student, but they have a higher proficiency, which seems like an error, but it's because the depth of knowledge for their questions might be higher than for others. So it's not actually an error, but it's part of the algorithm that they have. It's not PerformancePLUS's algorithm, it's the Cambium algorithm. So it really has everything to do with depth of knowledge. Okay, any other questions?
No more right yet.
Okay, so this is just kind of our wrap up. If you are looking to see everything PerformancePLUS related, you can if you don't already have a member login, you just go to this member login and then you can register as a new user and we'll get you access, or you just log in and fill in these fields. Again, if you forget, then you just you can get a new password. You can send us anything to be able to have us get you in there. Once you log in, you come to this educator success platform, and where the resources and discussions is, you can choose PerformancePLUS, and these are all past webinars and past workshops that we've done that have a whole bunch of just different information about PerformancePLUS. So you can you have access to that. In addition, we have some workshops and webinars for PerformancePLUS subscribers. So you are able, this particular one is today. We just did this one. You'll be able to see the recording up there. We have the same webinar coming up again on June 9th. So if you want any of your colleagues or teachers or anybody to be part of it, they can register. Or this recording will also be up on our YouTube channel as well. So you can register for it or watch the recording. Here are the past webinars for PerformancePLUS. So any of these are that are hyperlinked, you can take a peek at. We have the recordings on our YouTube channel. So if you just go to YouTube and you type in demonstrated success, you'll see all of our webinars there. You can follow us on any of these social media platforms. We're working really hard on creating blogs and doing newsletters and getting information out to administrators and teachers and everybody. So check it out. And then here, I'm again, Heather and Anne. You can get in touch with us at any time. You can email us. If you email us, if you need us to hop on Zoom or if you need to have a phone call, we're always available. And as always, you'll get an email with a link to this particular PowerPoint, a link to the video. There's a couple of handouts. The reporting category handout is one of them, and your PD certificate will be in there.